Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to walk you all through a comprehensive guide on how to store your Pokemon TCG booster boxes. So today's video is certainly going to be a more how-to guide, and I'm hoping in today's video to give you all a variety of options as a start, but also a variety of different fun facts about each of the different storage methods that I'll be going through today. And again, the intention behind this is really about not only showing you the different types of options you have available to you, but also some pretty creative and interesting ways of storing booster boxes that can not only be cheap and very readily available, but also really help you to maintain the affordability of your collection long term. Put differently, you really want to spend a lot of your money on your booster boxes and not on storage options for your booster boxes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. Now, this video, I may say, is inspired in part by several comments that I've received about doing more demonstration-based videos, and obviously this channel has done quite a few of those in the past, so obviously I wanted to take some time to create some new content around that type of philosophy, showing you all how to do stuff and showing you the way that I go about doing stuff, so you can either think of things differently, or worst case, say, hey, I really don't like the way Ryan does it, and I'm going to avoid doing it that way in the future. So, the first type of booster box storage method that I'm going to go through today is in regards to the cheapest option available to you, and that's going to be bubble wrapping your booster box. So, as you can see, I have a Celestial Storm booster box from the Sun and Moon era, and I have one of these USPS Priority Mail flat rate envelopes. Now, these are perhaps the cheapest option on today's list, and that's mainly because these are actually free. So what's great about these is that if you go to the post office and you ask them for some padded priority mail envelopes, they'll give you a bunch of these. And again, as with all priority mail shipping material, it is actually free. What's cool about this is that it is actually a flat rate envelope that you can use to send to anyone here in the United States. And of course, there's additional charges for if you wanted to ship internationally, blah, blah, blah. But what's cool about these is that this is actually a great way to store your items long term in addition to your shipping. So let's just say, for example, you had the Celestial Storm booster box, right? Relatively simple, easy to understand. Quite literally, take booster box, insert into your envelope like so. And there you go. You have a relatively sealed, relatively contained booster box. The other thing you can do is go ahead and fold this flap down, and the other thing you can do is actually peel off the adhesive tape and paste this down. Now you have a relatively contained booster box. As you can see, it still lays flat on the surface. In theory, you could stack a whole bunch of these on top of each other. And what's really cool about this is that it's a really quick, easy, and secure way of keeping your booster box relatively protected. The other good thing is that since you can use this as a shipping material, you can either use this to ship your booster boxes just like this, just affix a postage label and send it on its way, or you can store these long term and you can simply write what is the item here. So some pros about this are that it's incredibly cheap and incredibly effective. If you want to protect your booster boxes against surface wear or surface damage, this is a great way of going about doing that. The main drawbacks of this method are that, one, this definitely isn't for display. So this isn't something you want to go out of your way to display. This isn't something that's going to look good sitting on a shelf. So this is more for a long-term storage option, and it's really useful when your intention is to sell this stuff. So just clearly label what it is, and then later on in the future, you can grab one of these, affix your postage, and go ahead and ship it out on its way. Now, as an alternative to using priority mail bubble mailers, you can use non-priority mail bubble mailers, or you can just wrap your booster boxes in bubble wrap. The one thing I have to say about bubble wrap is that because bubble wrap won't have the sort of built-in sticky pasting part that kind of holds this thing together and prevents it from being opened, instead, I would recommend you use this fella right here. So this is just regular, good old-fashioned masking tape, and this is that tape that I always tell you all about. The reason I recommend doing this and using this is for two reasons. So the first is that if I take a piece of tape and I tear it, you can see that, you know, it's relatively easy, right? And this is an acrylic box, but as you can see, I'm gonna put that on there, and then it's, you know, with very little effort, it's easy to peel it off. It doesn't leave any type of residue. And the other important thing is that if you tape a booster box with some bubble wrap, what's easy about this is you grab it and tear it. So unlike other tapes, which would require the use of sharp objects or scissors, which could theoretically cause an accident where you cut the plastic on your booster box, masking tape is a really good way to secure your items, but also maintain the ability to get them cut out and safely get them cut out when the need arises. So that's the first option for today, is going to be this really, you know, simple bubble wrap style. Again, the major point here is that it's definitely not for display, but it'll keep your booster box safe. It doesn't offer the rigidity that other options on this list will, but if you're looking for something quick and easy as a way to store your stuff and have it ready to ship or package at a whim's edge, here is a really good option for you. Now, moving up on the list, the next item that we have up for use are these wonderful Starlight Containers. So these are something that I've possibly spoken about in the past, and there's a variety of reasons why these are really cool. So Starlight Containers are one of those situations where it obviously wasn't made for Pokemon, but it works for many of the English booster boxes that are out there. The way these work is that these are actually clamshells. So as you can see, they kind of work like a clamshell. And the whole point of using one of these is really simple. These are $1.98 at most Home Depots when they're in stock. And it's really simple how they work. You open it up, and then you go ahead and take a booster box and literally just pop it in there. And that's really it. So as you can see, I'm just gonna go ahead and slide that in there really nice and neat. And there you go. You now have a really well protected booster box. And again, bearing in mind that the cost of some, you know, bubble wrap or a priority mail mailer or a bubble mailer in general is pretty much under 50 cents in almost every real world application, and a Starlight container only costs $2. This is a really, really good way of protecting your booster boxes and a really good way for shipping your booster boxes. Now, in a follow-up video that I'm already in the works of planning, I'm going to show you guys how to ship your booster boxes with the most protection possible. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite ways of shipping booster boxes because it really is well protected. The one other thing that I've seen people do, again, is take some tape and tape this around, so there's no possibility that this clamshell is going to open up during shipment. Even then, it's really secured. This mechanism is simple, but definitely keeps this stuff secured. And as you can see, this booster box really isn't going anywhere. And again, because I put a little bit of bubble wrap in there from the priority mail mailer, it's really not moving around either. So when I tell you this is secure in this particular container, I'm not being like jokey or saying anything I shouldn't be. This is really secured. Again, some pros for this: it's super cheap, right? $2.50 to store a booster box is really, really nothing compared to some of the options I'm going to give you on the higher end of this list. Additionally, this is a great way to have your stuff ready to ship. And one thing that's really unique about this is that these Starlight containers are made to stack. So as you can see, there's a slight recess over here, and on the bottom of these, there's a perfectly fitting lip. So these stack really well. If you're a fan of TCA Gaming, you'll know that he uses these extensively. The one thing I'd say is that if you can get rid of the priority mail mailer and you can write the name of the item either on a piece of masking tape or on a piece of paper that you put on top of this, or if you really wanted to, just get some clear bubble wrap. And so this way, instead of just staring at a white mailer, you could see the item through this. These are transparent, so one of the benefits of this is that long-term storage wise, you can definitely have your booster boxes in these. They won't display as good as like a custom acrylic case would display them, but this is certainly good for all of your bulk stuff that you want to keep in pristine condition. You want to keep away from moisture or dirt, dust, and yet at the same time, if you needed to, you could quickly glance in and check on the condition of the box or get some pictures. So again, super cheap, super good. The bad news with this stuff, I mean, I really haven't found many. Again, this really isn't made to be a display type of situation. So unless you're looking for reasons to hate this because it doesn't look great when you put it up for display, there's really not much to hate about this. It's a simple and effective method, and although it's not the best, showpiece and really shouldn't be used for anything super expensive or super crazy that you want to display, in the grand scheme of things, this is a super effective way of storing, shipping, and having the stuff sort of pre-packaged and ready to ship whenever ready. So this is option number 2, is the Starlight container, and may I say it's one of my favorite because price for functionality is really, really great for something like this. Moving along in our tour de force is going to be these semi-rigid booster box holders. So as you can see here, I have a Unbroken Bonds booster box, and you would actually think that this is something that is just the raw booster box, but believe it or not, this is actually a hard shell case that is actually sitting above this. And just to show you all that, I'm going to actually open the lip and open this up, and as you can see, there is actually a booster box in here with a very transparent plastic covering this above it. Now, just as a show of the different varieties of types of holders that they make, what I've gone ahead and done is grabbed a few empty ones. So when you purchase these semi-rigid booster box protectors, here's how they usually arrive. They are a clear plastic that has this weird kind of film on it. Ignore the security seal. I use this to show people what a security seal works like. So if you've ever been curious about tamper-proofing, that's what it looks like when the seal is broken. But as you can see, they come in a variety of sizes, right? So this one is made specifically for EX era boxes. You can see where the line kind of sits. And just for comparison, if I line these two up, here is where the bottom one, this one right here, is made for WotC era boxes. What I have found is that the WotC era booster box protector actually works perfectly for the modern day stuff as well. It's a little tight, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a near perfect fit, and because of that, you can really protect your booster boxes long term and really not have to worry about anything. Couple of pros about these. They provide the best rigid protection because they are semi-rigid, right? So much like how we had the Starlight container, which was really kind of focused on giving some hard durability to your booster box as opposed to just bubble wrap, which wouldn't protect against impact, these guys combine a little bit of both. So you do have a pretty solid protection. As you can see, light impacts really don't impact the booster box, and because it's made of a hard plastic, you can scratch the surface of the protector and not worry about the booster box getting damaged in any meaningful way. However, all that said, some of the cons or drawbacks are that these are definitely a little bit more pricey. So unlike the examples that I've given you so far, which are, well under $5, these can range anywhere from about $10 to $15 per item, depending on who you're buying from. Just as a demonstration for how they work, you would basically push it together, it makes a little snapping noise, and then you insert your booster box in here, and then you'll go ahead and seal that up, and that is how you assemble one of these. These are really good because, as you can see, they display pretty well. Again, when you put them side by side, obviously the Starlight leaves a little bit longing. It's obviously not the best looking, and it's obviously meant to be sort of put like this. But as I've mentioned on this channel before, this is an item that is specifically made for Pokemon cards. These protectors are made specifically for booster boxes with certain measurements. And so when you buy this, you do pay a little bit more, but you also get a little bit more of a custom fit, which is really, really nice. I like these because they display really well. So if you're a collector who wants to show something off, you can definitely pop this up on a shelf somewhere. And then later on in life, if you choose to sell it, you would literally grab it and then guess what? Get a Starlight container. And guess what? This is going to fit in there just like the Celestial Storm did. The only thing I'd recommend is that you get some bubble wrap and throw it around this. And before you know it, this can be safely on its way and you can have your money in your pocket, resting assured this booster box is going to get there safe. One thing of note is that, as I mentioned, this is a rigid protector, so it does have some really pointy edges, but this is good because if I tap it against this table right now, nothing is going to happen to it. As you can see, that held up really well, and more importantly, we know the booster box is also going to be very well protected from any and all sort of environmental stressors. Now, to wrap up this particular section, the one thing I will say is that it does come with this plastic film on it. I tend to leave this on, but as you can see, it gets clearer if you actually remove this film. So you can see Sylveon with it, Sylveon without it. This is kind of like protecting the protector. So it's one of those types of situations where you can leave this on to protect the plastic protector. And then when you're ready to display it, you can tear it off. The way I see it, this isn't really that big a distraction. Again, it helps with, preventing scratches to the layer of the plastic. And for right now, I'm comfortable. But as you can see, buying something like this gives you tons of options. So again, to summarize, a little bit more pricey, but definitely something that's custom fitted to the Pokemon products that you are protecting. They come in a variety of sizes and offer superior rigid protection while being able to still display this and have it look really good in the grand scheme of things. This is one of the first options I've presented today, which will allow you to really display your items and also protect them simultaneously. And in theory, these can stack and these can go into long-term storage, much like any of the other items that I've shown you today. All right, friends, and finally but not least, up on the list, I have the acrylic cases. So this is what most of my booster box collection is placed in. So let's talk about these for a little bit. Obviously, you have ones built for EX era boxes, and as you can see, the one right next to it is made for WotC era boxes. The difference is that I believe EX had 9 cards per pack, but it still had 36 booster packs in a booster box versus WotC, which had 11. So that's why there is a difference in height from generation to generation. Now, a couple of benefits about these types of hard acrylic cases. These hard acrylic cases offer the best in protection. As you can see, this isn't going anywhere. In fact, acrylic, once it reaches a certain thickness, is actually bulletproof. So in theory, you're using a material that could be made bulletproof to protect your booster boxes. The other thing that's really important about these is that this is about as good a display case as you can possibly get. If we put it side by side with the Unbroken Bonds box, you'll immediately start seeing some of the differences. This was made to be displayed versus the plastic case with the Unbroken Bonds box, which obviously, you can pass it off as being for display, but you can clearly tell which of the two is superior and which of the two is going to look like museum quality stuff here. The other thing is that these acrylic cases come in a variety of different formats. So right now, what you're seeing on screen is a magnetic case. The magnetic case literally has magnets embedded into the bottom of the case as well as the bottom of the lip. And then you basically pop it on, and there you go. This, again, is not going anywhere. These magnets are some of the best in the industry, and the folks that make these very specifically know, like, hey, there may be some pretty high stress on these magnets. So they make it in a way where this stuff is not going to be falling out anytime soon. The other thing that I really like about this particular case is it has these little weird rubber feet. So in theory, if you wanted to place it flat on a table, you could. And what's cool about it is it's not going to go sliding at all, as opposed to something like this, where I'm going to put it, again, no rubber feet, so when I hit it, it just kind of goes flying off the table. So this was really good because even a little knock will not send this thing flying anywhere. And again, when you're buying, $20,000, $25,000 booster boxes, you want to make sure your investments are secure. A couple of cons about this particular item is that these guys get expensive. On the regular, expect to see these for $40 and up. The reason for that is a couple different things. One, typically these are not stored as inventory. Usually what ends up happening is these are made to order. So you say, hey person, can I get 10 of these? they make them on the spot and then ship them to you. So because of that, there's usually a higher cost per item, even when ordering in bulk. There are some people who purchase like 500 of them and then have them in inventory, and then they just kind of, you know, sell them as they go. Again, folks like TCA or whoever, like, they deal in booster boxes every single day, so it makes sense that they carry an inventory of this stuff so that they can always add one to protect their booster boxes in, especially when they're dealing with high-end clientele and high-end items. The other major con about these is that they are prone to scratching and breaking. So acrylic, although it is really bulletproof once it reaches a certain thickness, is also relatively easy to scratch. And I won't demonstrate that for obvious reasons, but unfortunately, as crystal clear as it is right now, you can even see the back panel and my finger through this side right here. The sad part is that if, you know, I got something sharp enough, or this was like lightly rubbed against some sand, it would have scratches on it. It's easy to buff those scratches out, but the other thing is that, you know, unlike the Starlight and unlike the bubble wrap and the semi-rigid protector, these guys will scratch. So, you know, just something to consider, that as good as they are for display, what's the point if it's all scratched up and nasty looking? So you really want to take that into consideration. The other thing is that these potentially can break, and this is something I'm going to cover again in that second video when it comes to shipping. Again, I don't expect this to break if it's just sitting on my desk as a display piece, right? That looks good, and this isn't going to spontaneously shatter. The problem is when you try to ship this, because acrylic is relatively delicate. So again, it'll do a great job of stopping a bullet when it's a 3-inch slab of acrylic, because there's so much the bullet has to penetrate before it gets through. The problem is when it's this little flimsy piece of acrylic, however, it becomes infinitely less dense, and this can actually shatter relatively easily. Again, not going to do that on camera for very obvious reasons, but the main takeaway here is that something like this can actually break if not packaged correctly when shipped. And in certain situations, you can actually break the acrylic and have the acrylic damage the contents of the protector. So that's something to bear in mind, is that something like this is not 100% foolproof. Theoretically, this is the best item for displaying really meaningful and expensive parts of your collection, but when it comes to shipping, it actually needs to be shipped in something completely different that is built for more of a shipping type of situation and setup. So just bear that in mind. There are different options for different reasons, and you should probably heed that warning. Again, I've never heard of one of these breaking. I assume that is most likely to happen when 2 or more of them are shipped in the same box and can bounce around and sort of like clank off each other. I have a feeling that that's when something like that is going to happen. And again, once it breaks, it becomes shrapnel, and that stuff is sharp too, by the way. So what can end up happening is it can end up cutting up the booster box, it can end up cutting up packs, damaging the box beyond any sort of, you know, repairable condition, and that can end up being a really weird thing. So that's something to bear in mind with these acrylic cases. The last bit that I have on the acrylic cases is that they do come in a variety of formats, right? So this right here is the magnetic one. What I've noticed is that this is kind of the hobby standard at the moment. Like, this is what everyone's frothing over. Prior to that, there were these ones, and I'm just going to move this out of the way so I don't accidentally hit it. These have screws. So as you can see, you would unscrew the different screws over here. This top lid would come off. You'd put a booster box in, replace it with a screw, and screw all the screws down again. A couple good things with this. Again, relatively simple to understand. This was a more archaic time when people, you know, were just trying to get along however they could. As you can see, one of the big pains in the neck is that screws tend to go missing super quickly. I think I received this when I bought my Dragon Frontiers box. So the seller actually just sent it to me in this thingy, you know, just one of the different ways that people have gone about storing stuff. You might find older collectors have a lot of these, but typically you don't see many of these out anymore. The other type of acrylic collector, super briefly, is one where there is a panel on the bottom, and the panel pulls out, you put the booster box in, and you slide the panel in. Those are the ones that I have for my collection. So for my 16 EX booster boxes, I currently have, I think, 9, and I need another 7. And so even one day this one will be replaced by one of those. I just like those because they're crystal clear, and the other thing I really like about them is the way they display. So there's not this like weird overhang. They do a really good job of getting the thinnest slice of acrylic they can, so it really looks clean. Now, you know, long story short, my thoughts on this type of item are: they're good for display. They're super, super expensive, so you have to bear that in mind. I paid nearly $500 for 9 of them. And again, those costs don't get any cheaper because acrylic is an expensive material. So even if you ordered like 40 of them, A, what are you doing with 40 of them? And B, what, you know, like, it's gonna cost a lot of money. The good news with these is that they're usually custom made, right? So as you can see, this box was very clearly made for EX era stuff, as well as late WotC era stuff. So things like Skyridge, Aquapolis will fit in this as well. So it really gives you a nice premium fit and feel. These are, you know, the highest of the high end. So they're not for everyone. And again, if you're going to store a Vivid Voltage booster box, I really think you should probably just buy one of these if you're really that pressed. Or, you know what, honestly, long term, chuck it in one of these and move along. But if you have a $20,000, $30,000 booster box, it's really not that big a deal to buy a $60 acrylic case and really have something nice to display it in. But with that said, friends, thanks again for checking out today's video. I hope today's video gave you a whole bunch of ideas on the different options that are available to you as a collector. Obviously, there are tons of reasons why you would favor one of these types of displays over the other, and you know, it really at the end of the day comes down to what you think is best. Again, something like the Starlight, which is right over here, obviously doesn't look that great, but if you need a long-term storage solution and you plan on, you know, selling or having this stuff ready at the whim, really great way of going about it. If you're, you know, not trying to spend $60 a piece on display and you want something that's going to offer great protection, go with the semi-rigid sleeves. And then on the high end of the spectrum, you definitely have your acrylic cases. Again, these are super durable, super good. There is a chance they can break when shipped, so they may not be the best for that. And of course, the cost is a major consideration, because if you're going to buy a $100 booster box and then get a $60 protector for it, I would encourage you to review your spending habits when it comes to the hobby. But with that said, friends, thanks again for checking out today's video. I hope you found today's content valuable, and if you did, feel free to leave a like on this video. Of course, feel free to leave any comments down below, and thank you again for your viewership. I always say you could have been anywhere on the internet, but you chose to spend some time with me, and that is much appreciated. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and as always, thanks again for checking out another video. Other than that, you know, have a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll talk soon. Peace.